Hey everyone, Margarita here. I want to talk in this video today about why I have to go so far into depth about all of my mother's activities along the way, some of which are criminal, some of which are suspicious, and some of them are just downright abusive. So part of that reason is because I will never be able to see my dad again if I do not expose the truth and all of these decades of crimes, and even more so the crimes since he's been injured the past 2.5 years. So, this did all start when I was a small child, once I was born, basically. But where I am today with it all, a little over a year ago, I was banned from my dad at the long term care facility indefinitely, and it's due to my mother's ongoing crimes. And it's not just the crimes, it's an entire false narrative, which are all delusions about me. And that's why I've been banned from him. So the only way to straighten all of this out, because she's managed to spread this false narrative about me so far that it's not going to get straightened out until the truth fully comes out, which pertains to all the crimes she's been involved in over the course of my life, and how each set of crimes piggybacks off the last. It's all tied together. It's one very long escapade with all these different batches of crimes in the mix. And she's gotten it to such an extreme degree with every employee at the care facility, which is Special Tree Spinal Care Facility in Romulus, Michigan, believing this entire false narrative about me. And then even further, she got them to lie in probate court, some of them, and has lied to the Romulus Police Department and all these police departments, really. But because there's so many family members, all these people, all these friends, all these people have been involved long term with this false narrative about me. And then she grew it heavier once my dad became injured. And at the root, she had initially planned on making sure I'd eventually be banned from him along the way. She just waits for certain things to happen, and then she twists things around to make it look like I committed this crime or that crime, or I'm this terrible person, or I did this or that. None of that's ever been real. Those are all delusions. So I've been banned basically from him on 100% delusions. So yes, she's had this plan long term. People just believe her by her using the words "my mother." So as soon as she states that she's my mother, or like the care facility, they're aware that she's my mother. What they don't know is that there's never been a relationship between us, and there's been no contact for 23 years. And I've been off on my own since age 18, and I'm self-made, self-built. They believe the false narrative that I'm this mental disorder drug addict, and I do all these things that she's told them, and none of that's real. Well, because they're not a part of my life, and they've never stepped foot in my home, or they've never stepped foot in my life, and they've never conversed with me or talk to me about how I make my money or what I've been doing along the way in the course of my life. They just believe whatever she's been saying every step of the way, and they just believe her because she says she's the mother. And she'll even tell you that, oh, everybody always believes the mother. Yeah, like that's how she laughs. That's how she sounds, like legit. So if you know her and you've heard the laugh, if she laughs like that, it's because she just told you a lie and a delusion. So that's what she's done to everybody at the care facility. At the root, that's how I've gotten banned. It took some time. Her behavior was very odd. The first several months of his injury, she was not seeing him regularly, and she didn't even come home from California for 4 days. She had no intention of doing so. It wasn't until his work bought her a plane ticket, and she was forced to. Otherwise, she would have looked guilty for what she had done, because I do believe the batch of treats she left for him while she was already in California and he was working, I think that was his last day, and then he was getting ready to leave and meet her out there. She left a batch of poison treats the week before, and I do believe that played a role in him walking off the edge of the scissor lift and creating the injury. So I do have a sample of those once things get to a certain degree, and maybe somebody can test it at some point. But yes, she had every intention from day one of slowly manipulating the situation, slowly getting everybody to believe this false narrative about me, slowly wait until the right thing happens, or I say something or I do something which isn't even criminal, and then she twists it to make it look that way. That's how she managed to get me banned, getting all these people to believe her. In the meantime, she was growing the false narrative, which is how she's controlled all of her family members, her hundreds of family members, all her friends, all her neighbors, all her coworkers. That's how she's managed to get everybody to believe this false narrative about me over the course of my life, because she grew it over the course of time from the time I was a small child and then didn't tell anybody. I cut ties with her when I turned 18 and bought my own home. She continued on with the false narrative. It's still going on today, and I'm 41 years old. So that was 23 years ago. And here she's been growing this false narrative, nobody ever realizing there's never been contact all this time. So where we are today with all of this, how this got to this degree. She did slip in a false power of attorney document along with the same documents that I believe it was to sign to get the work done on their house, for them to remodel his house so he could come home, from the care facility. And they made it wheelchair accessible, and workers' comp paid for that. So there had to be signed documents. I do believe that's when she got these documents signed. And I have numerous sets of proof, like I already released in a different video, that her documents are not legit. He never even knew he signed them. He wasn't well enough to do so that day. Yeah. Yeah. So going back to when that all happened, I am aware that she did that. However, I didn't find out until about 6 months later when I got my documents signed, which were technically the legit documents. Those were the ones he knew he was signing, and we had been talking about it for over the course of over a year at that point. And I do have text messages between the two of them from the beginning of his injury. And if you read the text messages, you can clearly see she wouldn't be the right person to have power of attorney, just based on those conversations they had in the beginning of his injury. So there's numerous sets of proof along the way. Here, she thought she was just going to get away with doing that and not telling anybody. That's another red flag. She didn't even notify anybody that she had them, except for the special tree, the place he's at long term. She didn't tell anybody else. And that's because they weren't legit. That's why she was trying to hide it. And then when I showed up 6 months later with the real ones, she's like, oh no, I had them all along. Like, no, you haven't. So because hers were signed first, just based on the date, without anybody actually investigating, they're going based on the date that hers were signed, not the reality of the situation, that he never even knew he signed them. It was all fraudulent, and I can prove it. They just operated as if I was the problem and I committed these crimes. So the care facility itself, because she did it right there at Special Tree as well, so did I. I brought a notary there. There was all of us came. There was like 7 of us. They supposedly banned me because of that. Because I came in and signed fraudulent documents. Well, they were never fraudulent, and I can prove it. So if that's truly why I'm banned, then why would I still be banned when I can prove that that's not the situation, that she actually did that? So that's another thing. She's a narcissist, full-blown narcissist. So, most people know narcissist accusations are actually truths about themselves, and that's exactly what happened in this situation. At the same time, it goes a little bit further, because I did walk in there in October of last year after I had a dream that he passed away and he didn't know. I was in there about 60 to 120 seconds, and they had called 911 on me and had a sheet of paper in their hands. I believe it had my name on it, or it had something on it directing them what to do if I were to show up. I'm not sure what that paper was. I really should have snatched it out of her hand. But I do believe that she has told the care facility that I have a mental disorder, I'm mentally unstable, and own a gun, and that I've threatened either her or my dad or both of them with it, which has never been true. Those are delusions. And I do have proof that she has done this. She did this prior to his injury, and she's done it after that as well. So in October of 2021 is the first time it was brought to my attention that that was the situation. Although I didn't even find out right then and there. I didn't find out until I started ordering documents last year. I do have the statement from the Brownstown, Michigan Police Department that says that she called, and I don't know if it's her or my dad that called. Either which way, if it came out of my dad's mouth, it was her repeating it to him. She is able to make things come out of other people's mouths that aren't real just by repeating delusions to them over and over. So I'm not sure which one of them actually called. Either way you look at it, it's not real. So 4 years ago is the first time where it's on paper that she stated that. And I do believe she has also called my city's police department and stated the same thing in Flat Rock, Michigan. And I do believe that that's what she did with the care facility. And she told them that as well. So that way, if I showed up, they would call 911 immediately and get me out of there. So, if it was just over these supposed forged documents, which I can prove aren't forged, they wouldn't be calling 911 that fast on somebody. So that's what prompts me to look a little further into that. And I'm going to do that tomorrow, actually. And leads me to believe that that's actually what was said to the care facility. Now, at this point, she has committed numerous crimes in Romulus. I have made previous Romulus police reports, but where we are today, because they didn't do anything, and I've been putting this together for quite some time now, I have more than enough evidence to have Romulus make arrests and look into at least a portion of what's gone on, even though I am going to have to feed them more of the backstory for them to fully understand how serious this is, because I can't just come at them with, well, this went on and that went on. No, it's way bigger than that. It's grown to where it is over the course of decades. So I haven't written that in the police reports prior. And I'm not sure if they're involved in the crimes long term or not. If any of those people are part of this unofficial organized group who've been participating in the crimes against me, I'm not sure. But I guess I'll find out tomorrow when I see their reaction to what I have to say. And I've already done their job for them, and I have proof, and I can lay it out for them. I'm going to film when I go in there as well. So we'll see where all that goes. But, it's a big red flag the way they had called 911 on me that fast upon entering the building. Literally nobody would be calling 911 that fast unless they were told some false information, something along the lines of what she's been saying about me. And it can be verified because she's also told this to many different family members over the course of, I'm thinking, some years now. And I do believe that's what she's also told her sister. And that's why her sister had chased me from the hospital room the day after my dad's injury, or a couple days after his injury. She chased me from the hospital room when I was feeding him his first meal after his injury. There wouldn't be a reason for somebody to act that way unless they were told false information. And it would have to be something pretty extravagant for somebody to be acting that way, the way she was acting. So it is verifiable because word has gotten back to me numerous ways on other family members believing this false narrative of me threatening my parents with a gun, one or both of them, or being mentally unstable and owning a gun, or whatever she's been saying. She's been saying it to numerous family members as well. So if Romulus Police doesn't want to believe me, I have the Brownstown records where it states that. And then all they have to do is a little footwork and reach out to some of these family members who are going to verify that she told them that. So as far as the care facility goes, that doesn't mean that it's true. It means the deranged lunatic fed them a false narrative. That's hearsay. That's her telling them that. That's not real. So the amount of crimes that have gone on where we are today, it's very extravagant. There's just no way for me to be able to see him without arrests being made. And at the same time, the care facility has participated in these crimes as well, because my dad's been rushed back to the hospital many, many times, near death, in septic shock, and it's because of my mother poisoning batches of food, which I notified them before he even became a patient there, and then made police reports in Romulus about this. And prior to that, when his injury first happened out in Royal Oak, Michigan, I wrote all of that in the reports in Royal Oak, that's what she was going to do. So it's provable if you lay my dad's medical records out, all the times he was rushed back to the hospital, all the cases of sepsis or septic shock, how he was released into her care about 2 years ago for her family reunion weekend, and I told them not to in advance, and why, and I said no, she's not qualified to care for him. She'll try to kill him. That's what's going to happen. She brought him back near death. They had to call 911 in less than an hour of him being back. So if you lay his medical records out, all these rushes back to the hospital happened out of Romulus, happened out of the care facility. Prior to that, everything I'm saying can be validated, because if you get his primary doctor's records from before his injury, she had been poisoning batches of food, like I said, all these decades. He was seeing his primary doctor many times, and it's always a jealousy or envy incident that causes it. So those can all be verified, because if you get the records from the time the injury occurred to the current day, and you get the ones from his primary doctor prior to that, he didn't go into septic shock or have sepsis, but it started with, he would get a UTI, or he would get these crazy lumps all over his body, which I'm aware it's from the poison food, because at one point I got some too, some years ago, when she had access to my food, and it was over jealousy and envy. So during the times that he was seeing his primary doctor, it was because he was at my house helping work on my house and remodel this or that. And she was very jealous of that. And I'm pretty sure she probably thought he paid for it, which he did not. I paid for everything. I actually got him a credit card that was in my name, and I told him to buy what he needed. So if you look at the previous records, the current records, everything that's gone on in Romulus since he's been there, it's very provable that there's a clear pattern of Munchausen by proxy on top of the false narrative. So that's another form of Munchausen by proxy. When somebody makes somebody appear to be mentally unstable, or have a mental disorder, or just makes them look sick or on drugs for attention, which is what she's done all along the way, that the proof is in the pudding, because this is what she's been telling everybody all along the way, and that's not real. The problem here is that nobody's actually talked to me, nobody's looked into my lifestyle, nobody has seen reality. They're just believing her because she's the mother, without actually looking at what I've been through, what I've been building, how many times I've been wiped out due to her escapades and crimes, what's all gone on. My life speaks for itself, so you can watch the video on that. I already released it. But I mean, it's all verifiable information, and that's part of the Munchausen by proxy. She's been doing that to me long term, for decades, saying that stuff about me with no contact, no relationship. So you wouldn't be saying that about somebody you don't have contact or relationship with, or know anything about. You couldn't possibly know anything if you don't have a contact or a relationship with them. So the care facility is liable for everything that's going on with my dad. They refused to listen to me. They didn't want to listen to anything that I said. Everything I wrote police reports about in advance has played out. It has all happened. So really, the care facility needs to be investigated. He actually needs to be removed from the care facility and brought home to his home, but she would have to be apprehended first, and get her out of there. And then from that point forward, there's enough to put her in prison for the rest of her life. But then he would have his own care team that workers' comp would pay for once he gets home. And then from there, I could run everything from there, because I'm homebound myself and can't leave a lot of the times due to whatever's in the outside air, all these flushes and spills. I get forced to shelter in place. Doesn't matter. I'm used to living that way. I still run everything. I still manage to get by, and I run everything, and I make things flow. So if I've been doing that for myself since my severe injury, it became severe 7.5 years ago, and I'm still holding on and doing what I've been doing all along, then there's no reason I wouldn't be able to continue to help run things, like to fully run things with her out of the picture and moving him into his home, which was already done being remodeled last year for him to come home to. That's where he should be. So he's not safe at the care facility. My mother still has access to his food. They continued to allow her to do that. They didn't listen to anything I said. They believed every false statement she's ever made about me, and then took it upon themselves to ban me. So in order to see him again, the only way would be to continue releasing my videos, telling all these different parts to the story and how dangerous she is and what she's been up to all along, all these different crimes she's participated in, all the people who've been helping her, how she operates, her behaviors, the abuse. That's the only way to get people to understand what's been going on and how serious this is, in order for arrests to be made, in order for me to ever see my dad again. So with the Munchausen by proxy, it's several things here. It's several things. So she likes to cause physical, mental, and emotional distress, which she's really good at doing, because my dad's been in severe physical pain for a couple years now, well, even before his injury. he had a really bad knee. Well, over the course of his life, he was older, so he had a knee replacement, and the other one started to go. So he had a lot of knee pain, and she didn't want him to go to the doctor to get pain medication. And here he was still working when he should have been retired, and it's due to the Munchausen by proxy. And I'm pretty sure she was calling the doctor and telling the doctor not to give it to him. So he was having to buy it himself. And with me, look what she's done to me: extreme physical pain and suffering. Same with my younger son. We stayed near death for years on end with no help in the medical system, in severe pain, extreme amounts of pain and suffering day in and day out without relief for 1 second for years. And with where I am today, I still live with continuous pain and suffering. It waxes and wanes. And then there's additional re-exposures to things because my brain tissue is still open. Particles get in there, especially with these spills and these flushes, on top of re-exposures to carbon monoxide, small amounts that aren't, that they don't harm a regular person. But with us, that's what we're overloaded with, on top of the brain tissue being open. So it causes extreme physical pain and suffering. There's times I'm incapacitated still due to that. So I've figured out how to run things and make things work while laying down and getting done certain things from the other room, from laying down. And I just get up minimally and do what I have to for each day to make things flow. But she has caused all of that, to cause all of that. And even before that, even when I was a minor, she still caused quite a bit of physical pain and suffering. I didn't even know what an Advil or a Motrin was until I was like 22 or 23 years old. Didn't even know what it was. Didn't even know they made stuff like that, because she made sure that I was always left in physical pain and suffering. So I'll get more into that in a different episode. But at the same time, she creates mental and emotional pain and suffering. And part of that is because she's been jealous and envious of me since I was born. So I'm going to do a whole episode on that, how she's been jealous and envious of me since I was born, because none of this is normal whatsoever. And because of that, she creates wedges between people, and tries to drive like a wedge into relationships to get people to turn on each other or destroy that relationship, which she has tried to do with me and my dad. And she has attempted to do that with my son, my older son, and my daughter. So those are the two adult children. That's what she does. Jealous of those relationships as well. Jealous of the relationship that I have with all of my kids, because I don't act toward them the way she did toward me. And then still jealous of the fact that I was born, and the relationship between my dad from the time I was born to the current day. Still jealous of all of it every step of the way. It's never stopped. That's not normal for the other parent to be jealous of the newborn baby or their child together, because the other parent is taking care of that child or that baby. And what it is she's mad that the attention got taken away from her and put on me. So that's what's gone on. That's what she's done. And excuse me. That's why she's not allowed to have a relationship with my youngest child. So, yes, there is all these problems. She drives wedges between anybody that she can. But she also wanted to make sure I did not have a support system growing up, or anyone to turn to, or anyone to tell on her to. And then once I became an adult, still the same thing. I've always been on my own without a proper support system, without anyone to turn to. And she made sure of that. That's why she turned everybody away from me and grew the false narrative with her entire family all this time. So again, physical, mental, and emotional pain and suffering. That's Munchausen by proxy. And then portraying somebody to either look sick, mentally sick, physically sick, or cause the physical symptoms directly. And then they get sick, or there's a problem or an injury, and then she gets the attention from that by doing that. And then it also creates the physical pain and suffering, and or mental and emotional pain and suffering. And then with me, not with my dad, because he's getting treatment and care. With me and my youngest child, she did the opposite. She made sure that treatment was withheld once there was an extreme medical emergency, and continued to make sure we did not receive treatment. That's how we ended up at the Oxford Center getting the couple $100,000 in treatments. With me, it was closer to $400,000 in treatments, because my private insurance covered almost another 200 grand on top of the almost 200 grand I spent out of pocket for myself. So that's how all of that occurred, is because she withholds medical treatment to create more physical pain and suffering, which she did a very good job, because there isn't another human being out here who can ever say they've been in that much extreme physical pain and suffering without any relief or any proper help. And I was stuck that way for 3 years. So she did all of that. So the Munchausen by proxy, when it comes to that, it goes both ways. But yeah, I wanted to touch base on how everything has to be exposed. I do have to go further into depth about all these different matters, everything she's doing along the way, in order to get other people to understand what's going on and how serious this is. There's no other way around it. I do have to go into all these different subjects and these things that she's done in order to get others to understand, because it's not a normal situation. And people don't want to believe that somebody's mother, just based on title, would ever do that. Well, that's what Munchausen by proxy is. So that's why I have to kind of explain things into detail. And yes, where we are today, I've not seen my dad except for the, what was it, 2 minutes back in last October, so like 10 months ago. And before that, I hadn't seen him since April of 2024. And that's due to her creating mental and emotional pain and suffering, which I think she thought she was doing to me. But with where I'm at with it, and I've seen the bigger picture for a very long time, it didn't have that effect on me. And I'm so wore out and overall just dealing with this my entire life, and all the running around I had done once my dad became injured, and I'm still injured myself, it didn't have that effect on me. So with him, it may have worked on him. I'm sure it did work on him, where she's creating extreme mental and emotional pain and suffering with him. But with me, it just didn't have that effect. And I'm sure that's what she was going for. That's what she wants. So, like I said, I'm super advanced with the knowledge I have on everything and what's gone on all these years, all these decades. Whereas other people are not. It's hard to get somebody to understand why somebody would do this. Well, because this is criminally insane behavior. Arrests need to be made. And I'm going to keep making the videos and calling out each person and agency until arrests are made, my trust fund is turned over to me, and my dad is turned over to me. That's where I'm going with things. So in order to see him again, I have to release all this information, all these crimes, so we can get her apprehended, so that way the care facility can be investigated for their role, and then get him home and removed out of her care permanently. Well, if she's arrested, then he'll be removed from her care, and there wouldn't be anybody else to take the place but me. So, I have the help of my older two kids. We would just move him to his home and take care of him there. So that's how it has to go. That's why I have to go so far into depth with all these different things I'm talking about, and her behaviors and what she's caused and what she's done. It's not me with like unhealed childhood wounds and saying, oh, poor me, oh, look what happened. No, I'm telling everybody this because that's the only way to get her apprehended, for other people to understand what she's done, what's gone on. And in order to get her apprehended so that I can see my dad, because I don't know how long he's going to hang around for. Like, I don't know if he's, how much time he's really got. And, last I heard, he doesn't even want to be here anymore. And it's due to all the mental and emotional and physical pain and suffering that she's caused. So this needs to be done sooner than later. The people who are helping her, who've participated in these crimes long term, short term or long term, I don't even care if it was a 1-day participation, all of these people need to be arrested. I have proof of the majority of it. I'm sure there's some people I'm not aware who are involved, but I do have proof. I would say I have about 80 to 90% proof. And if I don't have direct proof, there's indirect proof by the fallout that comes out of each crime, because the fallout is real in my actual life. So I have proof of 80 to 90% of the crimes. An arrest needs to be made immediately so we can get things situated. It is not normal for the jealous mother to have all these disorders. It never get diagnosed. Nobody ever listened to the adult child who's been trying to tell people this. I've been trying to tell people since I was 3-4 years old. Nobody's still listening. It's gone on for almost 40 years in that manner. And then her get away with it and nobody ever investigate or apprehend her, or the proof is all there. Why nobody's doing anything, I don't know. But it's not normal for that to go on. and then the dad to have an injury all these years later, and then her make sure that I get banned because she commits crimes, like I told everybody in advance, and causes all these problems. And then there's physical writing in different areas where it says I'm the one who's known to cause trouble, which that's not true. It's her. So the proof is all there. I will be back and do another update on what happens when I get back from the Romulus Police Department tomorrow. I just had to go into depth on why I have to release that much information and let everybody know that I'm not going to be able to ever see him again if the arrests are not made. Well, her at the top of the list, because there's more involved than just her. If you arrest her, you'd have to arrest these other people who have helped her, because they've knowingly helped her. So there's no other way for me to see him again because the care facility is involved in the crimes. So I will be back with more. Thanks. Bye.